Hi, and welcome back to Focal Point After Talk. Brian Fisher is my name. We were talking in the last caller talking about the urgency of communicating with our representatives, and they do work for us. So if you have a message that you want them to understand about what you think needs to be done, what their responsibility is with regard to the current occupant of the Oval Office, by all means call them and communicate that to them. You know, Andy McCarthy and everybody said this, look, impeachment might be appropriate. You got a lot of people saying this. Impeachment is appropriate. He has done things that represent impeachable offenses, but it can't happen until the political will is there to make it happen. In other words, what they're saying, the only thing that is stopping President Obama from being impeached is not that he hasn't committed impeachable offenses. More and more people are accepting that reality, but they do not believe that the American people are with them. They do not believe that that's an important enough outcome to the American people for them to pursue that. So there's something, obviously, that the American people can do about that. Just want to remind you that the 2014 Truth for a New Generation, this is organized by our good friend Alex McFarland. You hear him every day right after this program on Exploring the Word with Bert Harper. This 2014 event, September 5 and 6, Truth for a New Generation, AFA, American Family Association, is a sponsor of this event because we believe in it. We believe in Alex. Great lineup of speakers. Tim Wildman, our own president, is going to be speaking at this event. And want to let you know that there is an early bird discount if you sign up by tomorrow. The deadline is tomorrow, June 6th, $49.95 if you sign up by tomorrow. For students, there's an early bird discount, drops the price down to $39.95. So go to truthforanewgeneration.com, truthforanewgeneration.com. Grab a quick call from Carol from Columbus, Ohio, to start off this segment. Carol, welcome. What's on your mind?
Hello. Thank you so much, Brian. I try to listen to you every chance I get. Thank you for the truth that you're spreading. And I want to just tell every Christian who is listening to my voice, we, the people, even Christians, have done this to ourselves. We go to the polling places and we vote to steal from our neighbor with it, and we believe the lies of a federal government that is that it couldn't be more disastrous. But we go and vote for the libraries and the hospital. For Social Security, Medicare, food stamps, job training, senior options. We, the people, we Christians, vote to steal from our neighbor. We don't want to freely give to these needs, but we want to steal from our neighbor, and that's why we're in this place. And we're going to, if we do not repent, we will end up losing everything. And the politicians are happy to oblige by borrowing every penny that they spend. Thank you.
All right, Carol, that's a great word. And you know what Carol is saying? This is an interesting way to look at it, and I think I agree with her. Well, I know I agree with her. You know, we've talked about the fact that liberalism, socialism, progressivism, whatever you want to call it, it's all interchangeable, is predicated on a violation of two of the Ten Commandments. It's predicated on a violation of the command that says thou shalt not steal. Now, just because government does it doesn't make it right. It's still stealing. And the 10th commandment says thou shalt not covet anything that belongs to your neighbor. And socialism, liberalism, is predicated on covetousness, greed for possessions that my neighbor has that I don't. Why should he have more than I have? Why should he have so much when we've got poor people in our community that don't have enough? We need to steal from him and use the force and the power of government to do it, so money can be taken from him at gunpoint against his will and transferred to the people that we think ought to be the objects of government generosity. That's just theft. That's stealing. You know, in our last caller, she's saying, look, we need to repent as Christians. We need to repent of thinking that it is okay for the government to steal from others on our behalf. That's a sin. To ask the government to do that, to commit a violation of the Ten Commandments on our behalf for our benefit or for the benefit of people that we want to receive, want to get some kind of benefits, to believe and actually use our vote to vote for people who will use the power of government to steal from some citizens in order to give it to other citizens, that's a sin. And we need to repent of that kind of thinking. Now, again, I want to be clear. I'm not saying that all government programs are like that or all government jobs are like that. But if it involves the redistribution of wealth, if the whole plan is to take money from some and give that money, take money from one citizen and give it to another citizen, if it's a welfare program, that's just theft. That's just stealing under the cover of law. Now, if taxes are collected for the purpose of law enforcement, for the purpose of funding the military, for the purpose of having a functioning court system, for the purpose of having an incarceration system, a penal system so we get the bad guys off the street, for the purposes of controlling our southern border, all of that's fine. We have no problem paying taxes for those things, and part of the reason we have no problem doing it is we know that that's what God has designed government for. Now, a couple of more sound bites. I want to start with clip number 7 because some of you may want to respond to this. This is Joe Scarborough on with Chuck Todd about the conduct of Bo Bergdahl's father. Now, you remember Bo Bergdahl came out at the Rose Garden with President Obama, started speaking in Arabic. He used the name of Allah, invoked the name of Allah right there on the grounds of the White House, sort of staking a spiritual claim in the unseen world, claiming that turf, that property for Allah, the false god, the demon god who is Allah. President Obama's face lit up when he started talking about Allah. The Taliban loved it. We've got reports that they just ate that up when he started talking in Arabic and praising Allah and all that. Then President Obama walks out of that ceremony with his arm around these two parents. And he sends Susan Rice out there to talk about how Bo Bergdahl had served his country with honor and with distinction. So Joe Scarborough, MSNBC, gets into virtually a shouting match with Chuck Todd over whether Bob Bergdahl, remember when Bo Bergdahl wrote his dad an email, "I'm disgusted with America. I find America disgusting. I am ashamed to be an American." And the father wrote him back, "I'm thinking about deserting." His father wrote him back and said, "Follow your conscience. If that's what your conscience tells you to do, tells you to desert, turn your back on your fellow soldiers, then that's what you ought to do." And so they have this discussion about whether Bob Bergdahl was being a good father or a bad father when he did that. Let's listen.
That are missing a child. Their son is missing for 5 years.
Chuck,
you know what? It is not logical.
You
cannot handle it.
If my son, I've got a 26-year-old son, and if my son is out on the wire and he is out there with fellow troops and he writes me up and says he hates America and he's thinking about deserting and he's thinking about leaving his post, I can tell you as a father of that 26-year-old or 23-year-old son, I'd say, Joey, you stay the right there. I would call his commander. I would say, get my son. He is not well. Get him to a military base in Germany. I would not say, follow your conscience, son. I would not reach out to the voice of jihad.
I'm not backseat
Chuck,
driving
please.
how someone
No,
parents.
that is not backseat driving.
Joe.
I am a father. Any good father would not tell their son to follow their conscience and
he's a
leave
bad
men
father?
and women on the line. Yes. Yes, he is.
Wow.
So the last question Chuck Todd asked him there, are you saying that Bob Bergdahl is a bad father? And Joe Scarborough says, yes. Yes, he is a bad father to give his son that kind of counsel. So I'll be interested to get your reactions to that, 888-589-8840. And, you know, the reality is that we have a greater problem with Islam today than we had before. Here's a study from the RAND Corporation. There are 58% more terrorist groups right now around the world than there were in 2010. Remember, President Obama couldn't stop talking about the fact that Al-Qaeda is on the run. We've busted them all up. The war on terror is basically over, and we've won. RAND Corporation says no. There's a 58% increase in the number of jihadist groups over the last 4 years. The number of jihadist fighters has doubled, and the number of worldwide attacks has tripled. And the RAND Corporation says, look, we are facing threats in the United States from these Muslim groups in Yemen, Syria, Afghanistan, and Pakistan. So the threat is not growing less, it's growing greater by the day. And here's a piece from The Federalist talking about these Talibanis that we released. And what he reminds us of is that the Taliban, these 5 guys that have been sent to Qatar and are going to wind up back in Afghanistan on the battlefield, these were men who believed in killing girls because they went to school. That's what these guys believed. That's what these guys did. Now, these were the top officials in the Taliban regime that we had to topple when we went into Afghanistan in 2011. You got a provincial governor, you have a deputy defense minister, a deputy intelligence minister, a top arms smuggler, and a top Taliban military commander. 2 of them are wanted by the United Nations for war crimes. And people have just forgotten what these guys did. They bombed schools because they let girls play sports. They shot a girl in the head because she stood up for her right to be educated. They mutilated women in Afghanistan to punish them for their disobedience in their roles as marital slaves. They drug a 7-year-old out of a yard where he was playing and hung him from a tree because his grandfather had criticized the Taliban. And here's a Pakistani girl who said this about the Taliban. These are the people that President Obama just released. The Taliban slaughter other people's children. They turn women into widows. They should be made to suffer too. I want these Taliban to be burned alive. Instead, thanks to President Obama, they're now lounging by a pool in Qatar. Let's go to Terry, Blue Mountain, Mississippi. Terry, welcome. I got about 30 seconds. What's on your mind? I guess we lost Terry. So, Connor, Gary, hang on. We will get right to you coming out of the break. Do we have Terry there?
I'll hang on. Yes,
okay, Terry, you hang on. I'll get you right after this break. Got a hard break here, so I'm going to have to take a break for these brief messages. We'll come right back, and we will start with Terry in Blue Mountain, Mississippi. Connor, Hickory, North Carolina. Gary, Tupelo, hang tough. We'll get right to you here in just a moment. You know, and don't forget that Congress twice rejected President Obama's request to release these Talibanis from Guantanamo Bay. So once again, President Obama acting on his own, disregarding the law and the will of Congress. The search for Bob Bergdahl left the U.S. military outpost vulnerable to a fierce attack, according to a U.S. Army investigation. Focal Point AFR Talk.